Hi, it's Sue Grant from Berthon, and we're going to have a chat with Tina and Richard Hubbard, who own the Mystic 60 Just JOIA, which they have owned for a long time. They've cruised her many, many sea miles, many of them just the two of them, and they chat about their experiences and their extraordinary yacht. Just JOIA, your Mystic 60, designed by German Frers, built in Tarshing in 1990, and which has been your boat for a very long time. Remind me, what year did you buy her?
2004, I think it was.
Yeah,
And she was in Mallorca at the time in the Western Mediterranean.
that's right, that's right. Owned by a very colourful owner.
He was indeed.
It was a real adventure. And then she came back to Berthon and she had a refit. And
Yeah.
so then, where did you take her in that first period?
Well, at the very beginning, we of course had to enjoy the Western Med before heading home to Berthon.
Right.
And then after that, we took her up to Arctic Norway.
How was that?
And that was amazing. I think that was really one of my favourite spots in the whole of our cruising history. And I was working in Norway at the time, and we got right up to 70 degrees north and enjoyed the midnight sun of, I think it was probably June or July.
Mm-hmm.
It was a wonderful experience. We went to the Lofoten Islands and then up beyond the next set of islands, and we made sure we crossed the 70-degree north parallel. So that was her first voyage.
Wow, wow.
One of the amazing memories we have of that trip up into the Arctic was in the midnight sun. We came across a pod of killer whales which were feeding, and we just gently nudged the boat in towards them, and there they were, just feeding all the way around the boat, not bothering with us in the slightest. The sound that they made as they came up to surface was just unforgettable.
They are truly gentle giants, aren't they?
Yes.
They were on this occasion.
Well, not always. And before you took her up, before you started that, before you went on that trip and she came into Berthon, you did a lot of stuff that was really important for shorthanded, because, I mean, Just JOIA, you take friends and so on, but she is a boat for the two of you.
That was the whole idea, yes. We wanted a sort of 60-foot boat that was quite easy for two of us to handle.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it worked out. She is.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, I think the thing that we did, that of course you remember, is to put on the glass fibre, as we call it, doghouse, which made it so much easier for us night watch keeping when the weather wasn't as good as it might have been. So that, for us, that was a big advantage to help us with the Bluewater cruising. And then, of course, we went through the whole thing with all of the creature comforts. And Just JOIA is and always has been pretty much as good as our house. Mm-hmm. It's got all the creature comforts on it. So really, it's not a hardship in any way. And I've always said over the years, I've slept much better on the boat than I ever did in the house. So it certainly felt like our home.
Even down to the amazing shower, which people say there's no shower in the owner's stateroom, and it's set in.
It's the best shower aboard a ship, I'm sure.
And the other thing I always think that's really super important about the boat is, of course, the in-boom.
Well,
yes.
that was absolutely essential for short-handed sailing. That, coupled with all electric winches, just made it a dream. It was so easy to hoist the mainsail, to bring it back down in, and I can't remember how many seconds it took me on the fastest run. Probably something like 10-15 seconds to furl the sail.
There is a technique, but once you've got it down, it's very simple, and it's so simple for actually you can do it with one person.
Yeah.
Two is good, and then a little piece of kit that we added to the boat to improve it even further was something that we refer to as our puffing billy, which is a pulley that a rigger suggested to us to act as an upwind boom preventer, not a downwind, an upwind boom preventer. and when we're short-handed and we don't want to be trimming sails all night, and especially if you're in a bit of a swell out in the ocean somewhere, it prevents the boom from swinging with the swell of the water, and it really helped a lot. So we used to set the boom with an upwind boom preventer whenever we were on night watch.
That is interesting. Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
It's also very useful for lifting heavy things from a pontoon up onto the boat. So when for instance, the lifeboat is serviced, it's quite a heavy piece of kit. So you just attach it to the puffing billy, attach to the boom, and swing it out and pull it in. Dead simple.
Yes, our own building site crane.
Yes.
So, and of course, a lot of people might think that 2 people, 60 feet, you can't argue the logic, waterline length, faster passage speeds. But so when you were looking for your boat to have this adventure, why did you choose Just JOIA? Why did you go for that size?
Well, okay, so we did look at several. We had a 40-foot boat previously. It was a J40, and I and the boys actually sailed from the Hamble to Brazil.
Wow.
We sailed it over to Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
But Tina came on it from time to time and decreed that it was a wet boat because it was more of a racing boat. So we decided to go for the centre cockpit, and we never ever had the problem of being wet again. Mm-hmm. So the centre cockpit was important. And then we had a recommendation from one of our first skippers that the best, nicest boat he'd ever sailed was a Mystic 60. Oh, really? So that intrigued us, and that was why we ended up finding the boat in Mallorca. Mm-hmm.
Well, we did look at several other boats.
We did.
And we discounted the lighter weight boats immediately because they just have had an uncomfortable motion. Not too bad if it's just a short passage, but if you're on the boat for 2-3 weeks at a time, you want to make sure that you're as stable as possible, really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially if the water's a bit choppy. Mm-hmm. And the lightweight boats just move around so much. You've only got to look in a marina to see how they handle how they handle a bit of chop in a marina. So we did look at several other heavier boats. We thought that Just JOIA was comparable to an Oyster, but of course without the expensive name. And we also looked at a Hylas and a Bowman. That was the other one.
That was a much smaller boat.
Yeah.
But we
very low volume. Yeah.
We quickly decided that we really wanted to go for a 60-footer, and we had no hesitation about doing that, and no regrets either. And to be quite honest, it was okay. So you ask, what's the difficulty of sailing a 60-footer? And so long as you've got the right equipment and you give it time, you must always anticipate what the wind is going to do, etc. There are no problems. The problem that we had to learn to overcome was mooring the thing.
But then
because 2 of us coming alongside in a big boat like that, and especially if you're in some far-flung place that doesn't really have a proper pontoon,
or a wind that's blowing you off the pontoon,
we had to work out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the best piece of kit on the boat is actually the cheapest. It's a short length of mooring line, very short, which I used to attach midships when we came alongside. Richard would put me on the pontoon. I would leap off with what we call the dog lead, tie that on quickly, and then you've got time to grab the bow and stern lines and just moor up safely then.
Yeah, so
it was by far the best thing we ever learned how to do on that boat.
And it was by far the safest way to come in without sort of being blown off or anything of that nature. Mm-hmm. So the answer really to your question as to how on earth did we manage to sail the 60-footer so simply with just the 2 of us on board comes down to the 2 simple phrases of the puffing billy, upwind boom preventer, and the dog lead. To get the
Total cost about £250.
That was it. So I would say we only had a benefit from the exercise, not a disbenefit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, You've done a lot of long passages, and I know that you normally take crew on for those. And presumably that's a function of watch keeping and all the rest of it, and also it's more fun. So how does that work? How did you manage a typical, say, an Atlantic crossing?
Well, okay, so for us personally, it isn't the sailing that gets difficult, but if you do end up in heavy weather, then obviously it helps to have a few young bodies around. But the real reason is the nighttime watchkeeping. There's only a limit to how long Tina and I can stay awake. So if it's more than 3 or 4 days, we always felt more comfortable to have at least one crew member making 3 on board or 4. And sometimes if we had friends and family who really wanted to make the journey, then we went up to 6.
Right.
So if we had 6 on board, then we used to run a traditional watchkeeping of 4 on and 8 off, the old-fashioned way, which seems to work. And one of the 6 people ended up with the galley duty for one day. So we arranged it so that one day in 6, you knew your place in life. You were washing up down below.
And I bet the menu and the standard of cuisine sort of was like this.
Well, it did.
We had a very good standard of cuisine on board. I think the most memorable one was it was a Scotsman called Richard, and he made a gazinti soup. And I said, "Well, how do you make it?" And he said, "Well, you just look to see what's in the fridge, and you put everything in because everything goes into." And it was really, really tasty. But what we found made the transatlantic crossings was actually being able to make a cake, or better still, make a fresh loaf of bread in a bread maker.
Oh wow!
Where you just put everything in it, set it going, and come back a couple of hours later, and you've got fresh bread to eat.
Marvellous smell as well.
That was always the most favourite meal on the boat was the fresh bread.
Yes, mid-Atlantic brioche raises the crew's morale like nothing else.
and can we just talk, because one of the things that you did in the first refit was to make that workroom at the front of the boat.
Yes.
Which is fabulous.
We called that the shed. Yeah. As you can see, we had a silly name for everything. That was the shed, and I have to say that is also invaluable. It was originally designed for 2 crew members as sleeping accommodation, and we thought, well, we simply don't need that because it's such a big boat. But what we did need was a washing machine and dryer and all that sort of stuff, and a workshop with a bench and a vise, and of course, perhaps most importantly, an easily accessible sail locker.
Of course.
So I have to say I don't exactly know why the boat wasn't designed that way in the first place, because it is a perfect shed, come sail locker, come everything else. And that was, yes, you did that for us in the Berthon refit. It was excellent. It was as good as a utility room at home.
Yeah, no, and I think that because she still has 3 really generous cabins and a huge main saloon and a huge cockpit. So before I let you go, I just wanted to touch on the refit 2017-18, which was to prepare her for the Pacific, because Just JOIA had everything, didn't she?
She certainly did. So of course, I'm afraid the dreaded COVID got the better of us. But the whole idea had been that after participating in the Ark, which is something we'd never actually done because we'd always gone off cruising by ourselves, but we thought it would be fun to go with all the other boats in the Ark, which we did. And then we had a great season in the Caribbean cruising around, and that, of course, is a wonderful opportunity for everybody to have a go at. And the idea was to keep going and enter Auckland Harbour to visit my sister who lives in New Zealand.
Wow.
But the pandemic, I'm afraid, timed us out. However, not before we'd spent much time and money getting the boat ready for an extended period without access to boat yards, etc. So we went through everything. It's a new engine. It's a sort of a new almost everything from a systems point of view.
Even down to sails, standing rigging.
Yes. And what we did do for the trade wind sailing was to, she is fitted to take twin headsails, twin booms to pole out. And Pete Sanders made those twin headsails for us. And that's also excellent for short-handed sailing, because you set those two sails and put away the mainsail, really, just leave a little pocket handkerchief there. And again, you can go trade wind sailing without really having to trim the sails for sometimes several days. So we were all set. We were all set to do the South Pacific trade wind sail across from the Panama Canal to Auckland Harbour. And I still keep hoping we're going to do it, but it hasn't happened. So I think the pandemic may have got the better of us on that one.
That's a great shame, but at least, you know, Just JOIA is in really fine fettle and she's ready for somebody else to take her.
She is, yes. She's ready for that or any other journey that people might like to make.
Yeah. Although having come back and now she's in Leamington, they will have to take the Ark and revisit that before they get to the Panama.
Take two.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. Thanks so much. That's absolutely brilliant, and really appreciate your time today.